going on? Hey, where mi gente? The thing just wants to keep going. The music just wants to keep digging. What is always doing that, right? So what's going on? Welcome to a brand new international Comics Crusaders. I'm your boy Omega with the one and only my friend from across the pond, the creator extraordinaire, Mr. Dave Elliott. What's popping, homie?
Hello, sir. Welcome. No, it's all good. All good. Yeah, it's getting colder, but otherwise,
Lying.
the world is
All right,
turning.
over here with my jacket, my hoodie, a cap. Hell yeah, bro.
I've got my solidarity scarf on. So
So all right, brother. So before we kick it off, how you been since the last time we've been on, brother? Can you tell us anything about those projects you were kind of teasing us about? Any updates? Anything?
I think I can't. Yeah, I'm not ready to sort of it definitely like by January, you will know almost everything I'm doing.
All right, but you see this guys. He comes on here on the talking smack, but he refuses to share anything. Wow, bro. It's all right. You better share.
Well, don't worry. I'm going to be sharing everything here.
Wepa! That's what I want to hear. Yay!
Yep.
All right. Thank you everybody for hanging out tonight. On a Sunday or early afternoon, if you will. You guys probably having your brunch. It's football time. I know. Your teams are probably not in, so ignore it. Right? Who cares? It's time to talk some comic books because they brought up a great question. Just with all the columns and interesting news articles that have been coming out. I guess truths now against the comic book industry or for it. However you want to view it, and ideas being spread out. And one of the questions that we're asking here today is, Marvel, where do we go from here? And not just them, it's the business. So
yeah, I posed it originally from Marvel because Marvel were getting a lot of heat, before Marvel's was being released. There was some people questioning, like, is it Marvel fatigue? What's happening? Like, no one seems to know what the comics line is about, and it's restart after restart after restart and everything else.
Event riddled. You don't know what's what. And is it in continuity? Is it not in continuity? What the F am I reading?
Yeah. But I think as I put that idea together, and when I put the graphic together for the show, we started to see, like, Phil Boyle did his piece on ICV2, and it was replied. Yeah, and you had that, and then springboarding out of that, you had Mark Miller do his X thread on it, and then Brian Hibbs has voiced his opinion, which is mostly in solidarity with Phil Boyle, except for sort of certain parts of the way, right? And I think it was interesting because we were talking a little bit before we came on, and I think the comics industry is kind of the world in microcosm. It's we all have our own ideas about what. There's this, comics would sell better if this happened, and someone else would go, well, if comics might do better if this happened. Mm-hmm. Well, the distribution is this, the promotion is this, the market, and so on and so on. But I don't think that's the issue. I think we've reached a stage when you look back, and when Phil Sewling started the direct sell market, it was a seismic change.
And when did that start?
Oh, what was it?
What circle was that? If you remember.
It started before I started reading comics, so it's got to be sort of like late 70s, early 80s. But I think what we're due now is that
1975. 75.
Right. So
market, okay.
Yeah. So again, it was, and the direct sales market wasn't originally conceived to be a replacement from all other sales of comics. It was just an add-on. It enabled retailers to pick exactly what they wanted order exactly what they wanted in the quantities they wanted. And the benefits to the publisher was they were direct sale.
Yeah.
It was a firm sale. So at the time, like, retailers got a slightly better discount than they would have on the newsstand, but they also got to choose exactly what was going in their store.
Okay, so but were the newsstands and those, like, again, looking up the history, comics prior were available at newsstands, pharmacies, and candy stores. Now, being the direct market came into play, will those also offer the same opportunities of a discount, or were they kind of being the point of the creation of a direct market was kind of to either kind of get rid of them and go
No,
more?
it wasn't. I don't think it was ever meant to get rid of them. I think it was just as something that was preferential for a certain market. Like, so, like, again, like, comic book retailers are comic book retailers. They don't sell aspirin at the same time.
Yeah, and apparently, just for history's sake, one of the first comic shops apparently was established in about 1966 in Toronto. If you believe, of all places, the first comic shop.
Yeah. But see, at the time, it would have been more of a back issue comic shop, and they probably would have had.
And a focus on underground comics, the growth of indie and the new flavor, people not given a chance, voicing their opinions. So the birth of independent, right?
Well, it's interesting. Like, just when, like, so in the UK, it was the distribution was slightly different, and so what was here, what was the big seismic change? I think for someone like myself who'd only just started to become a hardcore comic buyer. I bought comics, I kept them all, I saved them all.
What age though? When did you consider yourself like, okay, like, shit, I'm in this? What age would you say, like, I'm in this? For me, I definitely discovered that I was in it by motherfucking 12 years old because of Grand Book Center, and I had to have $1 or $2 and get comics all the time.
If you put it like that, if you're talking about like the point where I just had to keep buying comics, like, as a lot of people would give up buying comics when they were sort of like, a lot of my friends bought them when I was 5, 6, 7. By the time I was 8 or 9, most of them had stopped buying comics.
Oh damn! You guys, you trying to say y'all mature? Y'all faster? Look at this guy. Look at he's talking about.
But it was like
9 years ago, we're sipping tea and eating biscuits. Where do we do books?
Back in the time when the Beatles were still together. So you actually got to that point where it was like, but I didn't. I really enjoyed them, and I wasn't going to give them up. And at that point, I was collecting them. Like, I think from the age of about 7, I started actually keeping the comics and not getting rid of them or not trading them, not giving them away.
I mean, yeah, bro. Yeah. I'm selling them at 7.
No, I was hoarding them, and it even got to the point where it was like,
sold them back, Dave. Religious instruction: the kids would leave it on the desk. I steal them back and sell it to them the next week. By the time I sell it the 3rd time, I would keep them.
No, I remember being about 8 or 9, even 10 actually, when like my elder brother read comics, but not as much. But so when we were a little bit younger, we'd swap, we'd read each other's comics. But the good thing was that I benefited then because he didn't collect them, so he would read them, and then he just didn't care. So I just took them.
All right.
So for a while, it worked out nicely for me because he bought some, I bought some, but I got to keep them all.
But okay,
and as long as he got to read mine, that was fine. Then he stopped buying them, but I carried on.
Was he a bender though? Was he one of those readers? Because there was a generation of you motherfucking comic book readers that would basically not give a shit, fold the cover back, fold it up and put it in your back pocket, like. Please.
No, neither of us were ever like that.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I think I would jump you guys in public.
But to be fair, I wasn't like that with anything. So, except in maybe a newspaper. Even newspapers, I would open I wouldn't go like that. I would just
You were doing the Ricky Ricardo, like the ignore the world. Or...
That's it. Well, of course, my little arms back then would be like, but the other thing was, it was, you know, the price was low. I mean, even though my pocket money never covered what I wanted to buy, we were in a different world. So it was, I could go to my local park and just cycle around, and with a backpack, and I would collect tin cans, glass bottles, and get the deposits back on them. So that between the two, and there was a lot of tin cans and a lot of glass bottles to pick up. So I would do that maybe 3 times a week, and so and then money I'd get from grandparents, birthday money, Christmas money, that all went into comics.
Yeah, but you were able to do that though, because back then the cost, as you said, was low. You do that, you could make a little bit. What is a little bit nowadays? But shit, you could buy a ton load. Again, I was buying 4 packs for $1. You know what I mean? Right. 25 cents each, and I was buying Sergeant Fury Howling Commandos and the what was it? The Vault of Fear. Right. Spider-Man. Captain
Where Monsters, where the reprint stuff, like Where Monsters Dwell.
Yeah, no, not even reprint. Like, this shop had OGs in 4-pack. I wish I still had those comics.
Yeah.
God, good old days.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was interesting. So just as I was really started, because I would buy most of my comics at first. I never went to comic shops until I was I must have been about 14 before I went to my first comic shop. I would just buy it to the newsstand because there was so many comics to buy. So I could get all the Marvels, all the DCs, Charlton, Heavy Metal when it came out. Creepy, eerie.
Mine was about 14 too when we got on our bikes and we drove to Continental Comics in Queens from Brooklyn.
Right.
The old Mike Carbonaro shop.
Right.
That's my first experience of seeing nothing but long boxes galore. Because at the shop that I would go to was just bookshelves, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But over here, I saw long boxes for the first time galore. I'm like, holy shit! Because I hadn't been to a con yet either. So like, what in the fuck? Listen, I had like $20. I had fun. We carried backpacks back in the day.
The best part of this particular age of comics is the big collectors market hadn't really started. Like, wasn't really going full throttle.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for instance, where I lived, within, I would cycle maybe in a 5-mile radius. Because I learned that some newsagents had something. Or the newsagents, by the way, it's a shop where it's what we call shops in Britain that had not just your cigarette, it had cigarettes.
Shop with the stogies and stuff. They have those shops. Yeah, one of those Manhattan magazine shops like that.
Yeah, stuff like that, and the sweets and candy. Some of them would have pints of milk and stuff like that in there as well, but that's kind of the bulk of it. But I learned that if I went to different shops, some of them had different distributors, so they had sometimes would have different comics. So just as a lot of people today might go from one comic shop to another comic shop, I would just go from newsstand to newsstand, and until I found all the comics I wanted. And then I would go, there was a lot of secondhand bookshops where you go in, there's all these secondhand books, they'd have secondhand magazines.
Yeah.
And then usually in most cases, they didn't put them on prominent display. Like underneath shelf, I would find them underneath a shelf. Say, there was a pile of comics in a box.
Yeah,
and you pull out the box, and sometimes there would be mint condition comics that were out 15 years old.
Oh, nice.
And that someone had just decided they didn't want them anymore, dropped them off, and they put them out. But because they sold, the focus was on books.
Mm-hmm.
They would put the comics, but they didn't know where to put. They didn't have any shelf space, so they put them in a box. So I learned that, and I would. So I started. You started knowing where to find the comics in all the shops, and there'd be times when I'd go to a shop, they would have like this massive big box of comics that were like 60s Marvel and DC
Oh
comics,
my gosh, really?
all in perfect condition.
Really?
And so what I would do is I'd take the whole box,
Yeah.
I'd give them to the owner and go like, okay,
How much?
here's how much I've got right now. Give me the amount of comics from that box that will pay for. And can you put the rest away? And I will just come back next week and buy the rest.
Yeah.
They'd often go, yeah, okay, yeah, great. Yeah. Because they wouldn't, oh, wow, I didn't expect to sell them. So, okay. And then eventually they got to, you know, you'd go in there and you'd be looking and they go, hell, oh, yeah, the comics. Yeah, hey, I've got some out the back. I didn't bother putting them out because I didn't have space. So I thought you'd like to look at them first.
You got some, look at Dave walking into the shop, VIP. Show me the books, sir.
Yep, I've got my bag. I've got my hand full of change that I just got from taking tin cans and bottles back. So
you smell like beer and shit walking in. You're 12-year-old smell like beer. Give me the comics.
Yeah, but you see but that was a pocket. That was a pocket of time that's not reproducible.
And do you think that that's what hurts because we don't have something similar nowadays?
Well, it's not only that. It's like, so what I was buying is be buying a bunch of comics, and every single one of those comics, or literally like one of the things that Marvel started to do in the mid-60s was have stories that would have running themes. So there might be a 2-part story, there might be a 3-part story, or there might just be a subplot that would go from one issue to the next. So even though the issue was complete, there was a shock ending that had nothing to do with the story, but there's really just set up for the next issue. Oh, that was cool. I've got to read next issues, but it wasn't actually a 2-part story. It fooled you into thinking it was a 2-part story, but it wasn't. You were about to read 2 single stories, but the connective tissue was the subplot between the relationships of the characters.
Okay.
So, but I could read it. I could read a complete story, but there was a subplot, like an element of that in the characterization that got me.
Which is fine, because that's where they hook you the traditional way that you could read again a story within a contained line of books where you're not buying effing 50 books nowadays. I mean, listen, my man Christopher Ford, shout out. What he did recently, he reviewed every single issue of the Night Terrors event from DC.
Right.
Johnny was killed. Like, why were you reviewing all books? Like, yo, he's trying to accomplish something here to see how many books it takes to understand an event. He did a wonderful job with reviews too. You know what I mean? You know,
did he understand it at the end of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And he dug it, and you know, and again, there was some obviously gems, you know, within it, and some that you know that didn't quite fall within. But he did such a wonderful job. I think we're the first website to ever do every single issue of one event.
Right. But you see, there was no such event comics.
Exactly. Up until what?
Secret Wars.
And they're trying to do really what? Sell toys at that point.
Yeah.
Events came out of fucking toys, guys. It wasn't even something that was natural. They just trying to find another way to sell some money. They figure, let's do this, and then because they saw the success of the event itself, oh, let's just keep doing this, and we doomed ourselves.
But think about it. I would buy maybe 30 or 40 comics a month, maybe more even some months, and I was buying British comics as well, by the way.
Oh damn, bro. So when you say British comics, just so our people understand in the States, like
so like
British comic, character.
So American comics like the Marvel and DC comics and Archie comics, they're monthly.
Yeah.
The majority of the British comics were all weekly, and they were all anthology in nature. So you could get. It was very rare that you'd have a single comic with a single theme so it would be like you could have comics that might be sports heavy. So the lead comic strip might be a football story, a soccer story. But there might be 2 or 3 sort of football related stories in there, but there'd be maybe a World War II story in there, and there might be a couple of comedy strips in there about something else. And so it was, you've got a choice of different things to read. Some funnies, there might be a continuing story, like, so maybe 2 of those strips might actually have continuing stories, or maybe even 3 of them might have continuing, but it's only 2 to 3 pages, and then the next part of that story is in just 1 week's time, and you get another 2 or 3 pages.
Another 2008 DS joint that we're familiar with out here, heavy metalish, right?
Yeah, but it like, so yeah, heavy metal sort of 2000 AD was, yes, you can say that's heavy metal-ish, and like, but even when that started, like, you'd have Judge Dredd started out as standalone stories with I think the big strip in there, in the first couple of few issues, was Dan Dare, which was continuing. So it was a continuing story, and even that was a reimagining of the 1950s.
Original Double D.
Yeah.
Daredevil, who wins, bro?
Yeah. Well, Dan Dare. Oh, Dan Dare, man.
Because Dan Dare will fuck up Daredevil? Oh, shit.
No, it's just you can't compare, but it was after a while, like, once everyone realized how popular Judge Dredd was, that started to have the longer stories that Dan Dare had before it.
Okay.
And so that started to have continuing stories. And then and there were lots of others, like, we always had the short stories. You had what they in 2008, the Future Shocks, and a lot of British comics might have these little short horror stories or twist science fiction stories that were like 3, 4, 5 pages long, but all very standalone. So you got the idea is that on balance, the comic gave you a satisfying read. You had a couple of complete stories, you had a couple of continuing stories, but where something definitely happened. And at first, there were the shorter, like, there might be a 3-part story, or a 4-part story. So by the end of the month, you've had that story. It doesn't carry on for years, like that. That unfortunately came later. But I think just generally, so if you take it from a standpoint of, let's say I bought 40 comics this month, but back in sort of 72, 73, I could read virtually all of them and have a complete read of every single story. Like, there might be an odd 2-parter or something, but for the most part, everything I could read it. Whereas compared to today, the majority of what I'd be reading, like, imagine, like, just the mental gymnastics of I've got 30 comics.
Yeah.
None of the stories are complete. They're all at different points.
Yeah.
One might be part 4 of a 12-part story. Some are just continuing on and on and on. You've got no idea where it's going to end. Mm-hmm. And so the satisfaction content, what I would call the VFM content, which is the value for money. And for me, value for money means when I've finished it, do I feel I've got something from it? And if I've got to that point where, well, I was hoping that something would be resolved, this issue, but it hasn't. I've got no end in sight of when it is going to be resolved. Nothing really happened except sort of the same 2 people that beat each other up the last issue have beaten up each other again, but still not been resolved. They still
heroes fighting heroes, and they ain't fighting villains no more. What's the villain? Villains are not the good guys.
yeah. But at least the thing was that I could find them. And then something that really sort of changed comics for me was, so I would buy my comics off the newsstand.
All right.
When I found comic book shops and when I found my first comic conventions, I was like, the thing that surprised me was I realized that the comics I was buying off the newsstand were 3 months old. You see, they were being shipped from America to the UK.
Oh, so you got to see American comics for the first time then?
Oh no, I was already buying American comics.
All right.
But the thing was, what I didn't realize is that they were 3 months behind what you were getting in America, because what they would do is when they get printed, the comics that are being shipped to Europe for the English speaking consumer, they were sent by ship, which took longer.
Well, damn.
So by the time it reached our shops, it might have been 3 months since that issue had actually gone on sale.
You guys gonna have Twitter then?
Yeah. Oh yeah, God. Yeah. No, it'd have been like, oh my God, it'd been eye opening.
It would have been a new war. You know, nuke America. They're blowing up our stories.
No, I remember. I bought what I thought was my latest Iron Man comic like a couple of days previously, and I went to a comic convention, and I'm flicking through these long boxes, and I come to a couple of issues of Iron Man that I didn't have, and they were actually numbered after the comic I bought like 3 days ago, and I was like, how can they have the comics that haven't even come out yet?
So funny.
So I asked the dealer, I'm going like, where do you get these from? And he goes, well, we get them directly from America. And I explained, and he goes, oh, yeah, you buy your comics off the newsstand, don't you? And he goes, yeah. And then he explained, like, this is why.
Oh, shit.
So
a new addiction with David was born.
Well, no, what it meant is over the next couple of months, I bought like 3 times as many comics as I normally did, because I went to the comic shops and the marts buying up all the comics that were between the ones I bought the previous week. Yeah, so that I could get right ahead. And then I just kept going to comic shops for my comics. But that also meant I was paying more for them, but I didn't mind that.
Okay.
See, that's the comic mentality. That's like, but I'm getting it early, so I don't mind paying a little bit more.
See, but that was then. But what now though? Because again, we're talking about Marvel, and not just Marvel, but DC, everyone, right? I mean, what's up with the industry, man? I mean, we saw Phil have his points about the direct market points. And, I don't know. There's a lot of things that you could agree with. Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, so. No. I mean, I think that there's a lot of points to agree with in what he said. As I said, like, if you look at what Brian Hibbs wrote on Facebook, he wrote a response to it, which was basically he disagreed with Phil over the kind of culture aspect of comics and the decline in sales, like the putting politics or just changing the sex of a superhero or a villain, etc. But he said everything else he thought was pretty like right on. He thought that he was correct in everything else. I think that I think we've gone for a very long period without the changes that happened before. So think about it. The change from the Golden Age Flash and Superman and Batman to the Silver Age was about 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, here we are 50, 60 years later, and like we've not changed. It's almost as though we need to have I kind of thought way back, I actually thought that Crisis on Infinite Earths was going to give us that, but it didn't. It was just ended up being just another gimmick.
Yeah, it opened up another crisis in our pockets.
Yeah, and then crisis after crisis after crisis after crisis, like
absolutely. I mean, although one of my favorite crises, I'll say, just fanboying for a moment over Jack Kirby history, is the Final Crisis, because that story leads into Commandy. And that's why I like that.
See, yeah, because like it's funny, like when you finish reading something, and as much as you actually liked it, the first thought you have on reading the last issue is of disappointment. And on Crisis on Infinite Earths, I thought, like, I think Marv Wolfman did an amazing job. George Perez did an amazing job.
All right.
I mean, Jerry Ordway's inks on George Perez was amazing. Like that
the dream team, baby.
that looks so that book was so amazing. But my first thought was like, damn, no Commandy? Like Tommy Tomorrow is Commandy?
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that sucked. Knowing that one of my favorite books technically didn't exist anymore.
Yeah. But they ended it though with the Commandy base, and that we were going to get the story. You could jump into the world of Commandy from it, you know.
But what's interesting though is like there's another way to look at it, which is like, well, why do we can't? We can still publish Commandy. You can still.
Yeah, what would
it just doesn't need to be the DC universe. It's like
Wait, let's talk about that for a moment. Just for a moment. Why would they change Commandy to Tommy Tomorrow? Why was it so important for him to change even his name?
Well, they didn't, because what they did is they merged him with another character. So there was a character already that exists called Tommy Tomorrow. And so what they wrote into it, that what they changed was, if it hadn't been for the big apocalypse in Commandy would have grown up. He would have actually been Tommy Tomorrow.
Okay.
But the world had changed. So that's how they handled it.
So he's a merged being of multiverses. Okay. Thank you, DC, for convoluting that.
But again, why do we don't actually need, when you think about it and you look back, Crisis didn't really need to happen. I mean, it was a great marketing ploy and it was great, but the DC universe didn't need to be organized, and you didn't need to have everything in one universe.
But they thought that was convoluted at the time. They wanted to, pare it down, one world, but of course, eventually bringing it back through Infinite Crisis.
But what they could have easily done, I say easily, but if you had like, okay, well, what we're going to do is, in a way, just as you had the DC Universe titles and Vertigo in the 80s and 90s, what if you'd had, okay, well, this is the Earth 1 universe, and now there's the Earth 2 universe, and there were lines of comics that were clearly identifiable as the two different universes.
But so remember, ours is Earth Prime, though.
Ours is, yes. But if as a publishing company, DC just published, here's Earth 1, here's Earth 2, and you can pick. And because obviously, like, the problem is no one seems to take the thought in their heads anymore of what is the budget of our audience.
But wait there, see, we have Marvel here, right? So let's switch it up a bit. What did Marvel do in their events, like Secret Wars and all? Like, did they have that level of impact that DC had on their runs that affected the universe, in terms of how readership approached the stories going forward? Because obviously, with Crisis on Infinite Earths, there was a whole reboot of lines. We had Barry Allen. Wally West is now the Flash. That we have Amanda Waller, Suicide Squad being reintroduced. We have a new JLA. We have a mulleted Superman. Things happen there. But what did Marvel do in that time now? Based on events that changed the game for them. Because again, they wound up being the bigger company eventually. The cooler company that kids were reading and following. And so they had I guess whatever they did, others were kind of emulating. So where did they kind of really start straying from the narrative?
Well, I think so. What was interesting, I think, that Marvel came to prominence at a time when DC actually controlled their distribution. So if you look up until
DC helped them rise to the top.
No, DC actually was the distributor for Marvel Comics. Was controlled by DC Comics. So what they did is they only allowed Marvel to have a certain amount of titles per month. So I think it was like 8 titles. So they couldn't publish more than 8 titles. So what Stan did is, if you go back, a lot of the books you remember weren't actually published monthly. They were published bi-monthly. So that meant that, say, if you look at Tales of Suspense and Tales to Astonish. Both of them had 2 strips in each. One had Hulk and Giant Man, the other one had Iron Man and Captain America. So, but they were bi-monthly. So you effectively had 2 books, but had 4 strips. So 4 characters had their own strips. So, but you, like as a collector, you could get in on the ground level. You could buy their books, and over a 5 or 6 year period, you started to get very invested. You wanted more of them. So when Marvel got its independence in 1968, where it could actually get distribute what it wanted and as many titles as they wanted, that was the period where there was a period of rapid expansion. But you could also mark their decline in that period as well, because if you look back and you examine sales figures, you could probably say that Marvel started to eat into its own bottom line at the end of the 1960s, because as they expanded, it was almost as though people only had a set budget, so sales started to decline, but they were spread over more titles. And so and then because each book doesn't sell as many, eventually you get to that point where you have to start putting the price up. And when you put the price up, the prices go down, the sales go down again. And then what you do to compensate for less money is you publish more titles, which again returns to you create a decline. I would comics never had the same mentality as the publishing industry, because in the publishing industry, you have an author, let's say Stephen King. Well, Stephen King, as fast as a writer he is, he can only put out a book when he finishes it. In comics, it was more about the character than the author. So that meant that you could put more comics out, and if a creative team couldn't match the speed you needed, you brought in somebody else who could at least either bridge the gap or who could easily do a book a month or 2 books a month, etc.
Yeah.
And unlike Stephen King, you could, if you saw demand, and this is where once corporations start buying publishing companies and have intellectual properties, if they see that oh, hey, Spider-Man is selling really well, people like Spider-Man, rather than just be happy that it's selling well and just sell more merchandise off of that,
right.
They decided, hey, let's have a new title called Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man. Right. And then let's have another one, Web of Spider-Man. Yeah. And before you knew it, you were up to 4 monthly Spider-Man titles.
There was a gap between the creations of those titles at the very least. Because you had amazing.
Oh, they weren't all at once.
Peter Parker in the 70s, right? Where was the 80s? So there was a gap, at least in between the creation of the titles. Not like nowadays, they get one character and shit. They'll give you motherfucking 4 runs at one shot. They could they were considerate, and again, it was up to you. Not that they're all relatively tied in, except the black suit story, of course.
Right, but don't forget that there was also Marvel Team Up. So that's a 5th Spider-Man book.
Oh yeah, man, right. It was like that was the DC's Brave and the Bold, if you will, because everything was Batman. Really, all the team ups, but everybody got to be goddamn Batman. Marvel Team Up, everybody got to be fucking Spider-Man. Come on.
Well, don't forget, Brave and Bold didn't start off as a Batman Team Up book.
It didn't. I know, absolutely not.
It became that way.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even referred to as a Team Up book, because when it first started, Brave and the Bold, there was different strips. So you had the Viking Prince would be in there, but you'd have
but now it's synonymous with Batman Team Ups, even based because of the cartoons. Even you know what I mean. My favorite Batman series ever, by the way. Batman Brave and the Bold. I love that.
Oh, that was so funny. See, again, I think that was actually very, very popular. And I think it was, in a way, it was that was the closest sequel to the 60s Batman TV show.
I love that. I love that. Wannabes, everything, bro. I mean, that whole underlying, like you said, subplot with wannabes throughout the season up until the heartbreaking moment. That I was like, oh no. I felt that shit. It's not wannabes, son. Damn.
Oh.
Yeah, that cartoon, fantastic. That and Primal, my fucking favorite animated series of modern times right now.
All right.
Primal, thank you, Dave, for putting me on that.
Thank you. It was awesome. And did you watch the whole second season?
Oh my God, yes.
Oh, it's yeah.
Oh, fucking this. I would love to interview this guy. Like, why do you like to murder people's heart this way?
Yeah, it was gutting. Yeah, it was just like, but it was great. It was like, yeah, it was so brilliant. It was a great way to end it. Yeah,
I don't use words like that, bro, but yeah, it was fucking brilliant. That's just wow. You can't beat that shit.
Yeah.
No, you can't. All right, so they're doing events to do all this, right? And then they start trying to get into movies too, right? At a very bad time, right? When they started doing this back in the night.
Well, again, we've got
try to expand.
See, I think one of the things we're looking at the moment is back in the day, it was the comics were the inspiration of the movies.
Yeah.
And people thought of them as it's a one-off movie. It's maybe, there's a sequel. Oh, they've got 2. But that was like lightning in a bottle. Like X-Men having 3.
Yeah.
Most anybody else with an IP that made a movie, it was like they might get one good movie, but the second one always was a bit sucky, and then the third one really sucked, like Men in Black.
That's what we suffered through back in the day, folks. That was our shit.
So, but the thing was that they were inspired by the comics.
Yeah.
Well, what we've got now is it's the tail wagging the dog. It's like the comics are following the movies, and if you're going to do that, then what you're going to lose, it's like you've lost your inspiration. Like, how can you're drawing from something that's a copy of the thing you've copied? Like you need the comics to keep their own continuity, their own thing, because the movies at some point they'll be rebooted yet again. We'll have a new Spider-Man, and you have to start all over. Well, wouldn't it be cool if you kept changing it and kept doing the comics as their own thing, so they had more to pull on?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we are owed soon a live action Miles Morales Spider-Man movie. Yeah.
Let's go. Make it happen, Dave. You gotta write it, bro. You gotta give it that spin.
Oh no! See, I'm not the right person for that.
Why not? But you have a Puerto Rican in your life that could suggest you things.
Yeah, it's true. You could be my co-writer on it. Yeah.
We can give Miles more that huepa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. Listen. Talking about Miles, right? A new creation. All right, because again, I want to keep moving this along in this journey, right? So.
Hold on. So okay, it's a new creation. So it's amazing. It's like Miles Morales was a great way of you reinvigorated a comic with a new character, but it's not a new character.
Universe. Keep this in mind, folks.
It's an alternate universe. Yeah,
alternate universe.
Well, bear in mind that when the Ultimate Universe was originally conceived, not what actually appeared, but what was originally conceived as, is it was conceived to eventually replace the other Marvel Universe.
Okay.
It was supposed to be something where, as it succeeded, as it built up, eventually it would replace the previous one. So eventually the older, like, so you'd eventually get to a point where half the comics being published out of Marvel were the Ultimate line and half of them were the old comics. And then, but eventually that would kind of, the idea is they'd drift off into the sunset and eventually be replaced, and people would be used to the Ultimate Universe.
Okay.
And which would have been the closest thing they'd have got to doing the Silver Age DC characters replacing the Golden Age DC characters, which Marvel has resisted doing. Like, even though they did the Ultimate line and they've started it up again, we haven't reached that stage where Marvel have done that change. We've switched over now. It's a new universe. It's I don't know what it's, if we've had gold, silver, bronze. I mean, I don't know. I think we're on the sort of polystyrene universe at the moment.
Yeah.
But
wait, I want to talk about that. Remember when Marvel did that change to New Universe?
Mm-hmm. Oh, New Universe.
Yeah, remember that?
Well, it wasn't a change. It was basically, it was a new line of books.
Story. I mean, were they really trying to navigate away from their standard? You know, or what? I mean, what were they really attempting there? Did you even understand what they were going for?
They were trying to create a new line of books. They wanted to create a new universe. I think.
I mean, yes, new line, but you think they were trying to get away from what they were doing?
No, I don't think they were kind of getting away. But I think what they wanted to do was there was a couple of reasons that played into that. First was just diversity. Okay. They thought, give people something new to collect that's its own thing. So it's
diversity in content, not race, folks. That's what we're trying to talk about here. In content, because it was different for sure. My favorite was Strikeforce Morituri and DP7. I think those two are completely underrated, but whatever.
Oh yeah, Strikeforce Morituri was great, but I don't believe that wasn't part of the new universe, was it?
Yes, it was.
Was it?
Yes.
I thought it.
DP7. Fuck yeah.
No, DP7 was. And
yes,
Justice and was it?
They had the football one, Kickers, right?
Sleepwalker. Was Sleepwalker one of the?
Sleepwalker was a 90s book along with Terror Inc. that was outside of New Universe. Those were just new characters at the time that came up also with Dark Horse.
Oh yeah.
Again, I was
Starbrand.
In my era nowadays, come on now. I was there for this.
It was Starbrand as well, I remember.
Starbrand was New Universe, and that actually crossed over. It still exists within the main universe now, Starbrand. Oh. DP7, I think, came over for a bit. I don't think Strikeforce ever. And that was a concept that even Liefeld took over into Bloodstrike, But again, the Dead.
I don't believe, and I need to check with the creator of it, but I believe DP7 is no longer owned by Marvel.
Oh,
and was never owned by Marvel. It was created by it was created almost in-house by the people. And I don't know if this relates to any of the other books. But
it's passive, folks.
But DP7 I believe was like when the universe shut down, I believe it was just the creators were told, well, you can go and do something with this if you want.
Really?
Yeah.
But I think DP7
and I spoke to one of the creators of it just a few months ago.
Really?
And he said he believed that it was his, but he's just.
So why he's not doing something with this? People are talking about the new universe nowadays again because there was again an attempt of Marvel trying to change things up. But now again, you saying now that they gave the rights, again, hearsay. We don't know this.
Yeah.
But was this supposed to be like an independently created universe? The creators get more options with it, or this is just another move by Marvel just to make some money?
Well, it's always to make money, but I believe it was just
baby.
They just wanted to diversify. Like if you look,
diversify.
Yeah,
I mean, diversify.
Well, I think they've realized that There's other things at play actually, but there was, so first off, you realize, okay, we're getting to an age now where people want something new, but rather than have somebody else publish it, let's publish it here. Let's publish it, treat it as though we're doing another line of comics, which is exactly what it was, which isn't going to cross over with the Marvel Universe. It's its own self-contained thing. Here it exists on its own. And so if you're buying it, you only need to buy these. Now, it's like for instance, one of the reasons that DC started Vertigo was so many of the creators that were doing work for Marvel and DC were starting to go to companies like Eclipse, Dark Horse, etc., because they wanted to do something a bit more mature.
But I mean, wait, before we talk about that too, were they leaving because they're also looking at finding a better maybe financial opportunity that wasn't given to them, or was it was it more creative freedom? What really lured them away?
I think it's a different. It's creating a cake that's a different slice of other cakes. So it's like literally like I have this cake, but I want it made up of different cakes. So I'm going to have a quarter of this cake, a quarter of this cake, and a quarter of this cake.
All right.
So that means that yes, I want more control. Right. Yes, I want more money, or the incentive to make more money. Okay. And also, if it does go anywhere else, if there's a movie of it, I have maybe a say. Maybe I get to be the consultant on the movie, or I at least get my name on the movie as the creator of the characters, okay. and a check that says that's like here's some money for helping us create this, and if it does really well, then you get another check after it's made, a couple $100 million, which is all very reasonable.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, things don't quite work out that way. Because, it comes back to one of the reasons why I don't think that any of the problems that Phil Boyle or Brian Hibbs have brought up, and even Mark Miller, none of the problems that even some of their solutions they came up with won't be resolved.
All right. So, one of the price points, right? Affordability. Mm-hmm. I mean, Marvel has even experimented with fucking $9.99 price point covers for floppy books, as you call them. So, talk to me about that. I mean, Phil's talking about $3.99. I think $2.99. Because kind of where even McFarlane has held the line at. I mean, what do you think is a fair price point, or do you think? Again, let's just talk about pieces of the puzzle, not just not that this is the end all. Yeah, there's how we improve it. No, but this is a piece of the puzzle. Affordability when a kid walks into a comic shop. I mean, spending $5 at a lot, $3. You might think about it a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that you see it's like so. There's the affordability. But then, like as I said earlier, like you have, what's the VFM of that? Value for money. Okay. Like, what is the value for money I'm getting for that price point?
Well, again, right now, what's the standard? 22 pages.
It's 20 to 22 pages.
And look, and that's hopefully without ads.
Well, no, I mean, you're going to have ads, and with Marvel, you have literally every other page is an ad, like. It's like.
I mean, how does that hurt the story? So, is that 22 pages with ads or 22 pages plus ads?
Well, it would be nice to see sort of a page here and there that that didn't have an ad next to it. And I think at one point, Marvel were putting way too many ads right next to like a major story point.
Yeah. Well, again, they're trying to sell, right? And trying to sell. One of the crazy points is variants, too. Like, why the fuck do you need goddamn 12, 13, 14, 15 goddamn fucking variants? Like, guys, stop it.
But you see that it's like once you've, like, so let's just say you're offering those 13 variants to 13 different retailers, and the 13 different retailers all have to buy a minimum quantity of 500 copies
Oh
to
yeah,
get that variant.
the cost behind that. I get those emails. You know, I don't want to be blowing spots up, but you know, it's not cheap on a retailer on any scale. So now that I understand their cost, you know, and doing math, because you know I'm not stupid on math. I'm like, oh, you know, you got to understand what it is that's going on there. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. The cost is wild, folks, for shops to do these. So when they ask you for that top dollar, it's for a reason, because it's not cheap at all. You know, and hopefully one day we're gonna do one, but hopefully not at that expense.
Well, you've got, I mean, like how many, if you've got, so here's what we have. The problem is like, okay, so a retailer says like, okay, I've got X amount of hardcore buyers who will buy that one variant cover, that special
you gotta
variant.
be sure about that as a retailer too, because you know even your most hardcore have a limit. You feel me? So it's like, yeah, are you really gonna test your clientele on that level? I mean, like, yo, you know, sometimes again it's not cheap. You know,
But how many? Like how many? So how long is this?
$20 a pop. You want me to? Yes, I want to support the shop. But fuck, $20. That means now that I'm probably, again. Let's talk about a $3.99 price point. I can't get 5 books because I gotta buy your one.
Yeah, I mean, how else is like it's if you do that once a year, or if you do that every other year.
Special, yes.
But they're doing it 10 times a month.
Monthly through various titles. It's not special. The speculator market is insane. The CGC, PGX shit is. Listen, I want to sell my Spawn comic run, but I got motherfuckers trying to talk to me like, well, you know, I got to spend money on the CGC. That's a you problem, motherfuckers. Yeah. I'm telling you that my collection is 9.6, 9.8 in between every fucking issue, period. All right, you're gonna make your money per box. You're gonna make your money back per box, and probably not even 10 issues per box that holds 150 issues. You feel me?
Yeah,
100 issues. Because I got multiple variants, and I'm again. But people try to lowball you, Dave. They think that this shit is insane. No, I got this whole run for sale. Talk to me, but give me some fair value, because you guys are gonna make this money back tenfold. I guarantee you.
But you see, all right, so. Let's take
hurts me in the industry, but hey, I'm trying to make money. Let's go.
So let's say you're someone who says, "Hey, I've got a complete set of Spawn. Who wants it?"
Right now.
Yeah. Now, okay, yeah. But what? And you've got a bunch of variants. Cool. Tons. You have all the variants.
Signs. Oh, on certain issues, yes, I do. I went deep on some because again, I
don't have all of them.
Not every issue, though.
I know. So you don't act. So in the eyes of a collector, you don't have a complete set of Spawn.
But I do have 1 through 350. So you have a run with no skip.
Yes, I get that. But you see, when you take collecting to its nth degree,
me now. Folks, don't listen.
Well, no, you don't have a complete set because as a collector,
I'm gonna get it for cheap, Dave. No matter what you tell me.
No. So look, as a comic collector myself, if I actually was interested in Spawn, I might be, hey, I'm interested. I want to buy your 350 issues of Spawn, and that means I get everything. I can read
plus, it. 350 plus.
But I get to read the whole story. I can start from the beginning, read all the way through it, and that's me happy.
Yeah,
but unfortunately what we're doing is we've created a whole bunch of collectors who they're not reading it.
About story. They want, let me get this variant cover. Oh my god! If
exactly.
They see my sign cover, they'll like blow a load, Dave. They'll blow a load.
But in their heads and in their minds, you don't have a complete set. So
no, I got enough that they don't have. That's for sure.
Yeah. Then you have to sell it as almost a complete set.
Yeah, but I'm not. Listen, I'm selling that as a whole. I have motherfuckers.
No, I know. Look, I'm arguing.
Dave, listen to me. These motherfuckers are supposed to be like this. I want to buy a piecemeal, and then okay, cool. You want to buy piecemeal? You have to buy it in straight issues. But no, they want to pick the expensive ones first. Let me get these first.
Okay.
No, absolutely not. How about you buy 1 through 50, 50 through 51 through 100? Let's go that route, motherfucker. Don't play me. I ain't stupid.
Yeah.
You get my key issues, and then you leave me with the rest. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, put this in a contract so I could sue you if you don't buy. How about that? You lie, but hey, listen, you want to buy my run? I'll give you the key. So let's write a contract. You buy everything else, though.
Yeah. You give me the deeds to your house.
Yeah,
if you don't buy my set of
exactly. Hopefully, you have the garage that will keep my new car safe from this fucking horrible winter weather that's coming.
Yeah.
Every morning it's frost on my car, man. It's fucking up my porcelain shine, baby. Come on. Anyway, now Dave, getting back to comics, of course. Marvel. I mean, again, all these changes again, not allowing that creative freedom. I want to get into that now. Let's talk about that. New characters are not being created, right? It's the same old. If anything, you're getting just different variations of the same effing character. Again, you went from one Spider-Man to like 2000. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on, brother? I mean,
I don't know.
Would Marvel allow creative freedom? Should they entice creators with a certain royalty or a creative ownership? What does Marvel need to do so reinvigorate its title so that way we can start seeing actually brand new original creators again?
I could tell you what they need to do to do that, but I'd be wasting my breath because Marvel and
Disney
and same for DC and Discovery, they won't do it. And the reason, it's very simple. They are corporations. Corporations are owned by shareholders.
Yeah.
So the way companies work at the moment, so if I wanted to offer a better deal to all of my creators, maybe even pay them a bit, so they I remember years ago, DC was offering, if you signed an exclusive, they'd actually pay your medical benefits. You had medical, yeah.
Stop lying.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, it wasn't for every creator, but the creators they chose and offered that deal to also got medical. And at the time, I believe Warner Brothers had a fantastic medical program.
Okay.
The benefits were very good. So you effectively became an employee of Warner Brothers DC Comics for that period. But they just aren't like a corporation. The shareholder always comes first. If the shareholder believes that, no, we don't want rates going up, we don't want a better deal, anything that's going to stop money coming into our pockets from our dividends, we're not interested.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the reasons why like the corporations were so happy to jump on the AI bandwagon, because if they could just have computer programs do the work of creators instead, that's less money. They just need someone who just feeds the script in. In fact, they didn't need feeds. They just put it in the chat bot and out comes your script, and then that goes into your Mid Journey, and Bob's your auntie. You've got a comic book, and all done.
How crazy it's done nowadays, bro. How easily it's done nowadays, bro.
Yeah, but again, you see, but that artwork that's created is scraped from the work of every artist that's gone before.
Yeah.
Now, Marvel and DC, the argument they've been preparing is it's our artwork. It may be the style. It's this argument of, well, no, if it's scraping previous issues of Batman to do a new Batman comic, Well, that's ours to do because we own the rights.
Yeah.
And then the artists are arguing, well, no, you don't actually have the rights to my style. You have a right to reproduce the pages I drew. You own the rights to. You can put them on a T-shirt. You can make a poster out of it. That's yours.
Right.
But you cannot take my style and use it by having by programming a computer to draw in my style. That you don't have the rights to do. And that's the argument that's going to be playing soon. And that's the argument that Disney and Discovery are wanting to face is like you people, every creator should be better off looking at the small print on their contracts, because at some point that is going to be in contracts and they may not notice it. They may not see it, but it will be there. It's like, you know, when like how many people do you know when they download the new program from one of their apps or your operating system on your phone and it goes like, click here to say that you've read all the.
Yeah.
How many people read that?
So no one reads that
exactly.
Shit. You go so quick. I want to play with this. I don't give a shit.
Exactly. So, and people, there are creators out there who deal with contracts the same way. They get a contract in, and as long as it's got the amount of money they said they're going to get paid for, the amount of work they said they were going to do, they sign it. And they better in the future really pay attention to those contracts, because they might find that they're actually giving away the style of their own artwork.
I'm like crazy. But anyway, let's get back on the Marvel track though. How can Marvel change? Because again, all these modern creators nowadays.
All right. So we would have to put ourselves in a world where the executives like Ike Perlman aren't going to be clawing every single cent and penny and stopping people from getting a decent paycheck at the end of the week.
Unfortunately.
So let's just say like some sort of magic. Hey, and I'm not coming across as a communist or anything, but if we could if we could disable capitalism, or at least put it under some form of regulation, if they really were honest and sincere about, we want to do a good job by creators, we want to improve their lot in life, we want to give them better rates, better incentives, then here's what we could do. And that, from the standpoint of the creator, it's like, well, pay me a bit more money, please. Don't set the bar for royalties so high. If I create something for you, let me be the person who sets the direction for that character. So interesting enough, actually, is that this is a Marvel story. So at the end of the 1990s, when I was in conversations with Marvel to go and work with them.
Okay.
And they wanted to relaunch the Epic line.
Epic, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So my proposal to them was the creators for the line, and we knew straight off the bat, like, this wasn't, Marvel weren't going to let the creators do fully creator-owned material.
Yeah.
So I knew that was out. But what I did is I fought for what I thought was the best possible deal. So the deal I was going to be in the position to offer creators was, if you create something, you are the only person that can write or draw that book.
Yeah.
And it can only be written or drawn by another creator with your express permission and signed off on by you, and you would still be compensated for the sales of a comic that you weren't actually participating in because you created the character.
Okay.
So you would constantly receive monies. For film and TV, you would effectively be almost like an executive producer. You would receive monies. So if it was a TV show, you'd get a certain amount of money every episode. You get money up front. You get a cut in merchandise. This was the deal I put together.
Yeah.
And they agreed to it. Unfortunately, they got a new publisher, who was Bill James. And after my first meeting with him, which went very well, he was like, "Yeah, this sounds great." But then he wanted to speak to me in private, and in private he said, "Look, I don't want to do this. And the reason I don't want to do this, it's not that I don't want to do it. It's like, I think this would be great. I think this would be fantastic. But the Marvel line itself is damaged.
Ooh.
And we need to rebuild it. It needs to be, it basically, it needs attention." So it was then I was offered the job to work at Marvel to oversee the like bringing back Marvel to where it was before.
Yeah.
I was not interested. That didn't interest me. It was because, but that was when I suggested that the Ultimate line to them. Okay. It was, no, I didn't say, "Hey, you should do an Ultimate line." Like, I didn't give it a name. Ultimate line was come up with by Bill or somebody else. But what I was doing was I suggested something that was a complete break from even format. Everything was completely different. It wasn't floppies. It was completely different formats, completely different approach. And I think that line would have been successful if they'd pursued it, but they chose not to.
Do you think that maybe that idea is still something viable today?
It was reliant, or partly reliant, on newsstand sales.
Okay.
Now, the problem is like, if you're launching a new comic and putting it on the newsstand, it's going to be almost impossible.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you could do it. You could still do the format. You could still take the approach I was planning, but only if you took the main characters that people are seeing in the movies.
Okay.
And to be honest, one of the reasons that surprised me is, instead of Marvel taking the approach of, well, we're going to make the Marvel universe a copy of the cinematic universe, so everyone's going to start wearing the costumes that the movies have.
Yeah.
They're going to behave like they do in the movies. What I thought they should have done is, well, why don't you just create a Marvel Cinematic Universe comic line?
Absolutely.
And what you do is you adapt all the movies into comics. But what you also do is, it gives you the opportunity to tell the stories that happened with the characters between films.
Absolutely. I love that. And then you still keeping the old school characters and their 616 outside the movie universe story. So now, you're appeasing the movie fans and the traditional comic fans all at once.
Yeah. So instead of doing, you could adapt the Iron Man movies to the point where you tell the stories in between. And so instead of having just 3 Iron Man graphic novels, you could end up with 8.
Absolutely.
Because you're telling other stories and other stories that happen in between them.
Each movie, absolutely.
Yeah, and
but
also,
you know how many you even had.
Yeah, and also stagger their releases in the same way you released the movies in the first place. So, month 1, you have Iron Man 1 comes out.
Yeah,
and it might be the only title for a couple of months. You get issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, and then when issue 4 comes out, you put out Thor #1, and then you have Thor 1, 2, 3, and then when Thor 4 comes out, you've got Captain America 1 comes out.
Slowly introducing the whole roster throughout.
Yeah, but stagger the approach. Don't let everyone make them have to buy all 4 of them the same month.
Yeah, think about the fan, think about the pocket, and again, they're going to appreciate that a lot.
And then when you actually put it into graphic novel form, you start putting out like the books at, here's the Iron Man, and it's the first collection of each of these books will be the collected adaptation of the movie.
Yeah,
They'll be the official, because they've never, as far as I know, they haven't done comic adaptations of their movies.
have they?
Not. They might have done one of them, but they haven't done all of them.
Yeah.
So if they did all of them, that would mean that any new reader that came in, you've got, oh, there's Iron Man, and then what they would, but the thing you could also add is you could treat treat each of the comics series. So okay, I'm doing
right. They don't do that now. Back in the day, remember the Conan adaptations? Anything that came out, they would do a movie. You're right. None of these really have that.
DC did it with their Batman, the Tim Burton Batman movies.
Oh shit. Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So if they did that, they could still do that now. They could go, hey, let's do this.
Interesting.
And so create their own little pocket line.
Giving you free advice, Marvel Disney. Now we find this out that you use it. We're copywriting this right here on air, and we will go to Florida, me and Dave, and give you guys the beating of your lives.
Florida. They're in Los Angeles.
Oh, Los Angeles. Then go Los Angeles, Dave. I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah.
We'll talk to some people in LA, and that's it, baby.
Yeah. But so what you could do is, so you'd have a line that would satisfy people that just wanted to read the adventures of the movie characters.
Yep.
And then you'd have the regular line that would be, this is the actual comic characters still. But I would really cut back the amount of comics that they produce.
So what's a good amount of comics?
Well, see, I remember there was a piece, there was an article I wrote. I posted it on my DeviantArt page, and then I sent it to ICV2, and they published it.
Wait a minute, Dave. Do you think I'm going to let you get away with talking about your article without me putting it on screen so people even know where the hell to go?
Well, we could put it in the link below.
But it's right here. Of course, we're going to put it right there. You know that when they have even longer hair, looking like Fabio, it was blowing in the wind there.
A somewhat older, podgier Fabio.
Oh shit! But what are we talking about here, brother? You say publishing programs for the big two and specifically improving them.
Yeah, you look at comics now, like a monthly a 32-page monthly comic is getting to the point where it's $3.99 or $4.99.
Yeah.
Some are even they pushed over the $5 mark.
Like I said, I've seen $9.99, $8.99. Like who the fuck? Listen, if comics are meant for kids, you show me a kid that's collecting that many cans a fucking month. They're not.
Yeah. So for me, if something's $4.99, I would make that comic 48 pages. I would have 40 to 44 pages of story.
Yes, let's go.
The other 4 pages would be ads and a little bit of editorial if necessary.
Must deserve. Why not?
But because it's 40 pages, I would kind of insist that we go back to the storytelling where in that 40 pages, something better bloody happen. Don't give me 20 pages, 40 pages of people talking or a 40-page fight scene.
My word for that is fluff. Do not give me fluff. At least if you're going to give me an anthology, 2 out of those 4 fucking stories better not be fucking fluff. You better give me something that's going to make it memorable. Listen, I understand some stories need fluff because it's character building, universe building.
But that's not fluff.
3 to 4 pages.
No, see, if it's genuine character building.
If it's genuine fluff, I get it.
But look, if you've got
it's just fluff that what the fuck does this have to do with the story?
Yeah, if you're if you're the writer and the artist says like, hey, I haven't had a good fight scene, just give me 40 pages of fighting and I don't want them talking, like what's the point? Like,
nah, bro. But yeah, and that brings me back to the 90s. Listen, 90s was nice, beautiful art, but again, we were getting nothing. We were spending $1.99, $2.99 on comic books that at the end of the day took us 5 minutes to fucking read. I'm not into that. Like, bring me back to the Bronze Age. Give me those fucking beautiful art, multiple panels, lots of word bubbles, half-hour reads. And those shits were costing 60 cents, 75 cents, 35 cents in those eras. You know what I'm saying?
I remember being when I was very young reading comics. I would always read them 2 or 3 times. And what I would do is I was so excited to get a new comic. I would go through the comic first and I would go through it and I would literally just read about, a couple of lines of dialogue a page. Like I would look through it and I would go through it and I would get because
understand it, all right.
But because the storytelling was good, I got it. I got exactly what was going on. So I would go through it and I just wanted to see it all. I was like, yeah, I wanted to see how it was. Like, oh, that's great. Then I would go back in later on, like maybe the next day or at the weekend, and I would sit there and I would read everything.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. It was like, oh, I'm getting all this extra stuff that I'd missed the first time. So I was enjoying it again, but I was getting so much more out of it.
Yeah.
And that was great. And then maybe a couple of months later, I'd get like a stack of a particular title and I would read them again. And it would be like, oh yeah, because it's always nice when you read it. It was always nice going back after a while and reading not just that issue again, but the stories, the couple of issues before it, a couple of issues after it, just to give you, and you feel, and you're cocooned, if you like, in that title for a little bit. You spend a couple of hours reading like 10 issues of a comic.
And it's a wonderful thing, man. That's why I used to love the Marvel Essentials. Again, keep in the theme of Marvel. When they used to do these thick books collecting at least 20 issues, black and white, of original runs. Like Mike Jan was reading all the Hulk. I mean, I read all the Hulks up to volume 6, and I'm so upset that they stopped doing that. I mean, and these books value $20. You're getting over 20 issues, right? And you're reading complete fucking run. Like now they stopped that. Now they rather give you storylines, broken up issue runs. You have nothing that's straight through that you could read. And why the fuck would they do that? I love these essentials, man.
I actually think that the reason, like when they proposed the idea, there was like, this sounds like a great idea. All these issues, and it's just in black and white. That's cool. And I think they actually ended up way more popular than they thought. And they realized, like, we're giving away too many pages for what
it's black and white, and it's fucking newsprint. I think I mean, what's the production value? Stop it, folks. Give us what we want as fans, yo.
I think that they saw that we were getting too much value.
Fucking assholes.
Yeah.
I love that shit. I mean, I have almost a complete collection. I read. Listen. You know what it is? You just sit down on a nice happy Sunday before podcasting. That's when I was getting these. I would just read through and like go. I know so much about Hulk is one of my favorite characters, and then thanks to the essentials, I'm like, at least I'm caught up to the Hulk into like mid-70s right now.
Right.
But damn, bro, why you rob me from that opportunity? Fuck, bro. I get you, money, fucking bastards. Again, that need to change though. The capitalistic mindset needs to change. Do they need to allow more creative freedom? Do they need to produce more essentials again and reinvigorate the readership? I mean, what can Marvel do? Because again, if everybody is doomsaying. So,
well, see, we're in a stage where it's like the primary audience for the comics are still aging out.
That's us. Yeah. I mean, I try to get my daughter into the comic shop. She would love to go into one, but you know what she asked for? Where's the manga?
yeah. I mean,
that's for the comics.
No, so it was like the essentials. Like my kids, they loved the essentials. They'd sit there and they'd read. Like they'd go quiet. They'd go quiet for hours, like reading a bunch of essentials.
Yes.
So, and because I had girls, I'd give them the Supergirl and Wonder Woman ones as well.
Oh yeah, I know. You're talking about DC Showcase.
Yeah.
Those volumes were fantastic.
But they would still read the Marvel ones. They'd read the Spider-Man ones. They'd read the Fantastic Four ones.
So the Showcase is similar to the Essentials, which were fantastic as well. I mean, straight issue by issue story. You're catching up. I mean, a great way to catch up. It wasn't colored. Who cares? But as you said, I mean, if they find out they were giving out too much, that kind of sucks. That damn, yo, how about you appreciate us buyers? Because some of us will probably want to get the original issues after we read this. Like, you know what? I want the OG on this. I mean, I know. Listen, I almost finished almost a Hulk run up until I had to sell it because of family. But I almost had an official complete Hulk run, minus maybe the first appearance of Wolverine in those issues. Right. And a couple here and there, but basically add all the hundreds, all the 200s, almost all the hundreds, almost, and then basically all the 200s and 300s. Right. That was murdering it, bro. Fuck, bro. Thank you, life.
Life's a bitch, isn't it?
No, but you know what? Listen, this is why I always tell people: like, be appreciative that you collect comics. Comics is it's something that you has value, that you could sell it and can get you out of holes. So, you know, for as much as I may feel sad of what I sold, it took me out of moments in time where I needed the help. So thank you, comics, for helping me and my family. This is what I do. What I do at Comic Crusaders, because this is a love letter. Comics has helped me not just through reading stories and being inspired, but when I've been stuck, the value that they hold has helped me. So, financially, emotionally, mentally, comic books has been therapy, baby, in so many ways.
See, it's funny. I read a short thread on Facebook the other day by Eric Larson.
Eric, he's the man. I love that man. He's so real on his social and don't give a F what he says. He's just to the point.
And he loves comics. He loves it. Like
he was down his medium. When I met him, I thanked him. I said, "Yo, thank you for being so honest on social, bro." He laughed at me. And I'm like, "I'm not trying to start trouble." I said, "No, I'm not talking about none of that. I'm just talking that you experience. Like, you honest and you genuinely care." And he he gave me a big pound. I was like, "Yeah, man, that's Eric Larson, baby. A salute to the homie."
But I think the thread, the piece that I read on Facebook by him, which was it wasn't like a big one, it was fairly short, but the gist of it was this: that comics today are so different from the comics that we bought when we were first got in.
Oh, Dave, I mean, listen,
but no, let me finish the thought. So he's
from now, definitely.
Yeah. So he said that if he was a kid today, he wouldn't have got into comics.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah.
You know what? Dave? I think, honest to God, that is the real fair assessment.
It is.
Because
I mean, and again, it's
out there that's new. I mean, for me, and I'm sorry, folks. I'm thinking in my age mindset. I'm 48. Even though my beard makes sure you think that I'm older. No, I'm only 48. And if I walked into a comic shop nowadays, not being a collector prior, and seeing what's on the shelves, I probably wouldn't be turned on to too much because it's just nothing. There's something about that old school appeal, how they did it, the covers, the how iconic the characters.
It was the content.
The content, of course, but again, you could open up that book and you'd be like, okay, I'm gonna pay, let's say for example, 80s, when they went to $1, you still getting so much context out of it. You open it, you're like, oh my God, I could be reading here for a fucking half hour for $1. This is great. It had value. It had entertainment value. It took you away from the world for a moment in time.
I did a calculation. I found a website that did calculation. Let me see if actually still
What you
have
mean?
it.
Oh, you fucking with me on time? What's going on, bro?
Yeah. So basically, it's here it is.
I'm a big stick for time. And you see me keep bringing that up because again, if I pick up a book and I spend money, I need to feel that I spent X amount of time. If I read a graphic novel, it should take me over an hour to read. You know what I mean? If I read a comic book, a first issue explaining the universe, it should, and it's a 48-pager, it should take me over an hour.
Right. So let's so if you look at inflation,
2 hours on
I'm going to look at inflation. In 1963, comics were they were actually 10 to 12 cents.
Yeah,
so for the benefit of the doubt, I mean, I think within a couple of years they went up to 15 cents.
Yeah, rather quickly they did.
Yeah. So, but what I've done is I've entered into if something was 15 cents in 1963, if it just rose with inflation, comics today would be $1.51.
What the fuck? Really?
Yep.
So why the fuck are we going a double price point?
Well, what they are is so if you look at
actual double price point.
Yeah. So, but if you look, so obviously there's other factors in there, like cost of printing, stuff like that. That's just purely the inflation figures. That's taking out all the other sort of costs of paper, everything else. But as a price on inflation, comics today should be $1.51.
Insane.
Okay? Now, I would actually say
more buyers we would have of comics at that price point, I think.
Well, don't forget, it's all down to sales. So the more sales you have, the more you can actually afford to sell something cheaper.
All right, then, but you offer it at an impossible price point to begin with. Who the fuck is gonna buy it? You know what I mean? So what's the conundrum?
Exactly. Well, but you see, but you're also now you're also selling to a greatly reduced audience. So
depends on your marketing scheme, though.
Oh no! I mean, look, think
also this free marketing. I mean, if you know how to,
it's not even marketing. Look, so okay. Let's just go back. Let's go back 40 years, 1980. Probably the amount of comic book stores in the US was probably several thousand.
Yeah.
I know that by 1990 there was I'm tempted to say that even after the implosion that hit 1993, I think there was something still like about 4,500 retail stores in the United States or North America. There's probably only about 2,000 today, maybe 1,800.
Damn.
You've got now, just so that I think it was Rich Johnson had covered on Bleeding Cool just in the last week that because he made a good point. It's like, look, it's all, sometimes we're comparing apples and oranges. Phil Boyle has been around for years, and we've got like Coliseum of Comics closing down, like one of the very first comic book stores. They're getting out the market, and it does sound like we're ringing the doom bell here.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Richard mentioned out, he posted, I think there's an article in Bleeding Cool. It was, yes, 2 stores were closing, or I think in England there was something like 2 stores were closing here, but there was 6 more opening.
Okay.
So it's kind of.
But the 6 more opening, because I want to give you an example here. So new comic shops that open up in New York, for example. I know there was a spot that opened up in the Village not too long ago that just basically focused on independent, and then anything big two was on a per order basis. So like, yo, we'll get you big two, but you have to say you want that, and then we order what you want. But we're not gonna stock them on our shelves. So what approach those shops taking over there? Is it that same type of approach where they want to support indie, or they, going for the industry as a whole and don't give a shit?
Well, see, I think that, like, I used to love listening to retailers where when you talk to a manager and they would tell you what their best-selling comic is in the store, and you go like, "Oh, actually, yeah, that was a good book," and then you'd wonder, like, I wonder why that sold more in his store, not the other one. And you speak to another retailer, and he said his best-selling title was title X, and you go, "Oh, okay, well." The other retailer I spoke to had title A, and that was his big seller. And this retailer says X. I wonder what's going on.
Yeah.
Then but you have to go back and ask the retailers, what was your favorite comic that came out this month?
Oh, okay.
And the retailer that said title X before was his big seller. You go, what was yours? And he goes, oh, title X. And the other retailer who said title A, he said title A was his base.
Yeah.
What he was doing is whenever he got to speak to a customer, he would go, I love title A. It's brilliant.
Gotcha.
And because he was out on the floor talking to his customers, they went, oh, I'll give that a try.
Yeah, I get it.
And that's how they sold. If you don't have, and comics in particular, if you don't have a retail store, or if you have a retail store, but you're the manager and you're not on the shop floor, you've hired two people who maybe don't know that much about comics, or they're kind of half into comics, but they don't know anything about the history of it. They're just like, they're the only guys you could find, and for the price. Well, they're not going to sell. How are they going to sell the comics? A lot of it is hand selling. Like, how are you going to sell that book? How are you going to sell each of these titles to your customer base? When I was in London, the comic shop, when I used to live in London, like way back, the comic shop that I would go to with my Atomica partner, Gary Leach, would always be Comic Showcase, run by Paul Hudson. And we'd always go in there, and he had some great staff in there, and they all had different tastes in comics. And so I'd come in and I'd maybe pick up 5 titles, but there'd be 3 members of staff plus the manager there. And so I would end up maybe with 10 titles because I'd taken their recommendations as well. And often I would go like, oh my God, this is brilliant, because they got to sit in the comic store reading all the titles. So they could actually give you a proper recommendation. So that's what you need. If you don't have that, then you're letting customers come in and just look around and go, oh, I'll just pick that up. And if you're asking your staff, if you ask the staff and go like, oh, what's good? They go, well, I don't know. Apparently a lot of people are liking this one. So the passion, and I think that's the thing that was always the unique thing about comics is, new comic book day, you'd go in there and you'd always bump into people you knew, because they'd all go in for theirs. You'd look at what they were picking up. They would pick up something you've never seen before, never heard of before. And that's usually what it created. Like you started like, oh my God, I'm buying too many comics now because I'm buying all the comics my friends recommended.
Too funny. All right, bro. So how can we get back to that though? Because subscribers collecting, how can we help the industry? I mean, what can Marvel do? DC? What can the big two? Because obviously they're the ones that everybody regardless follows, whether it's Premier, Indie, Deluxe. I mean, they follow the narratives of those big two.
Well,
so they do anything right now to help before we go.
Well, I think we have to you also have to step back, and again, you know, a couple of people, whenever, again, going back to Phil Boyle's piece, there is a tendency to sort of read that as, oh, it's you know, it's the end of comics, it's the end.
It's not.
No, it's not, because
they've been doomsaying this since digital comics, and yet here we are still.
yeah, but you see, the thing is, you have to view it as a whole. Marvel and DC are nowhere near the whole of comics. They're not even close.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, you talked about manga. There was a friend of mine, James Killen, who used to be the head buyer of graphic novels for Barnes and Noble, is now working with partners, and they've set up a manga only store in New York.
Nice.
And there's a market for that.
Yep. And they're fine with it, and they make money, and they're happy, and they get that client base because manga is my brother's into manga. I understand, you know what I mean? They're not into what it is now. You know, that's their joint. They get these big ass books. They, you know, they're there for a minute reading. You know, it comes out every month, every 2 months, whatever. You know what I mean? And it's a wonderful anthology by one creator. The story doesn't get fucking spoiled, you know, by others. It's just wonderful, one story, one creator going throughout. You know what I mean? It's a beautiful thing. It really, at the end of the day, that's why, not for nothing, I really like the Green Lantern one by Jeff Johns. You know, he stood on that shit so long. That's just, wow, he did so many cool things with the fucking story because he stood on so long. But once he put other fingers into it, I felt like it started, you know, ruining it.
But you see, again, what, like, there's this thing that Marvel and DC have done. You mentioned it with Spider-Man, which is, okay, there's a 1,000,001 Spider-Mans now, or Spider-Persons now.
Oh my God, yes, too many.
But Green Lantern was the same. When we had the multi-lanterns, the red lanterns, the green, the black lanterns, the purple lanterns.
But wait a minute. Now you have different corps. That's different. Different corps, different energy sources. It kind of really had a real cool reasoning behind it. You know what I mean? But this multiple Spider-Man, just in this universe is this one, in this universe is this one, in this universe. I mean, and it gets repetitive, it gets corny. But at least with that, it was based on emotion, the colors. I got that. I thought that it was more in depth than anything the Spider people could do. I'll defend the shit out of that fucking.
Oh yeah, but you see what you're seeing across every line, and it's echoed in the TV series. So you look at Flash, the TV series, and
which one, the Grant Gustin or the OG, the 90s? Which one?
The Greg Gus.
Okay.
Greg Gus. It's like you look at that and you go like, okay. It's just like, to me, it's just like the Green Lantern comic that Jeff Johns did, in that every villain and every new character that has any sort of power, it's all around speed.
Okay.
And just as the Green Lantern is like, well, this guy, these are powered, like the Red Lanterns are powered by a different source of power. The yellow.
It's different. Speed is speed.
Yeah, no. But you see, the point is, that it's all very similar to the Green Lanterns. It's all still a ring and a costume. They look like the Green Lanterns, except there's a different color costume.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool if, here's Green Lantern and his villain is, it's a speed character? Because everything is always very conveniently in channels. Like this, Flash is always speed. And
at least on TV it was for fucking sure. And in the comics recently, maybe we had Black Hand and the Dark Stars and the Manhunters, were not necessarily related to Spectrum.
But see, what I liked, what I started to see more and more in Marvel was, it's because Dr. Doom was we always saw as like, that's a Fantastic Four villain. Okay.
Absolutely. Is he really a bad guy? He loves his country.
Right, but hey, Dr. Doom turns up in Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. What's he doing here? And then, hey, Dr. Doom turns up in Daredevil. Wow. Yeah. Dr. Doom turned up in Luke Cage, Hero for Hire. It was like, what they did is you had the characters would sort of move their rogues gallery around, and it would make them more interesting because it wasn't just fighting mirrors of themselves.
Absolutely. Now, exactly. Like, listen, I'm not the enemy of just one. I'm the enemy of all.
Yeah.
I love that shit. Absolutely. Like, yeah, I'll fuck
Yeah.
with everybody. I don't give a shit what.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't have a you know, a nemesis. Everyone is my nemesis. What up?
Yeah.
And I love that. Yeah, that's the awesomeness of Dune. If you heard now, Marvel kind of wants to switch the narrative in the MCU films from Kang to Doom, possibly. I mean, how would that fit? I mean, again, if you saw,
well, if you go back into
spoiler, did you? Okay, Dave, did you
Yeah.
see? Did you see the Marvels?
No, it's not opened here yet. I don't think.
Oh no, so I can't give a spoiler. You don't know nothing about the spoiler yet.
I don't mind. I mean, we shouldn't spoil films anyway.
Oh,
I'm totally against. Like,
it's online, Dave.
Huh?
Is it my fault if it's online though? It's already online. Am I spoiling it if anybody possibly saw it?
Yeah, you're still. I mean, like, people are out there want to see it in the
I'll
movie
spoil it
theater.
online. There's a great thing that happened, and I think you guys are gonna be very excited for the future. Although I was confused about something, this is why I wanted to bring it up. But maybe you know what, Dave? You find the spoilers in the next International Comic Crusaders. I don't give a shit. We're gonna talk about it.
See, look. I mean, I know a lot of people have. I don't understand it, to be honest. It's like there's people that were negative about Captain Marvel before it even came out.
Oh my God, Dave! A big shout out to my man Club CX. He was talking about this very thing. We were hanging out yesterday, and he goes, "Listen, I watched the movie. He's going to go see it today for the second time." He goes, "The movie's really good." He goes, "I don't understand why people are even shitting on this." Like, listen, he goes, "There is no man bashing. There is no agenda. Kamala is the star. The Bree does great. Everybody does awesome, and great surprises. Wonderful fucking movie." He goes, "Bro, I don't know why anybody would hate on this film. I know why, but so do you, Dave."
Yeah. I mean, I like Captain Marvel. I mean, and I thought Brie Larson was great as Carol Danvers. I mean,
well, she's supposed to be a soldier, straight edge. Why do they want the smiling chick all the time? Do you not understand her character? She's fucking straight.
But she wasn't. I mean, again, I didn't see her as someone who was frowning the whole movie or anything.
She wasn't. No, but she's a serious actress, but she's also this character. So it's like, yeah, they don't clown. This is not a fucking Deadpool. This is not, this is not Harley. This is not a character that's gonna smile every 2 seconds.
I think there's also a little thing at play, which is, I mean, like, part of me when I realized that they were doing a Captain Marvel movie, and rather than starting at the beginning with Marvel, they were going straight in with Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel.
All right. Honest opinion. Had they done half the movie with Marvel, how much stronger would the movie have been?
Oh, I don't think it would have been. And I would have been more frustrated with it, because I would have liked to have seen I'd still like to see a series of movies that builds up, like,
go back a bit, you mean? In the series?
Like I would love to see, like, the Marvel character be built up properly. Even go through that stage where at the beginning he was tied to Rick Jones.
Oh shit, damn.
But then we got to see, like, the stuff.
Rick Jones, the Jimmy Olsen of Marvel.
yeah. He was a snapper car, man.
Shit.
But we got to, and then we got to see, the big Thor, the big Thanos climax, the big battle with. Imagine if Marvel was part of that, and Warlock.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a proper Warlock, not the clownery that they gave us.
Oh yeah, that was terrible.
That
I admit was terrible.
Well, listen, why would they do that? Like, yo, these motherfuckers not read the comics? Like, are you seriously gonna clown this motherfucker on this level with that power set? Are you like, come on, yo?
But you see, the problem
me, they just want to clown any goddamn male hero. Sometimes what I feel is just stop this already, yo.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the actor was all wrong for that. Like, and Warlock was not
That's not what
He was not a jokey character. He was not a jokey character at all.
yeah.
And there was so much, like Jim Starlin put so much into that title.
Yeah.
It was so, like,
It was
what
total
happened.
disrespect to Starlin, bro, in my opinion. Total.
Yeah. No, he did that. Like, I think that probably the creator that had the most influence at Marvel after Jack Kirby was probably Jim Starlin.
Well, absolutely, because he helped
The whole cosmic. Yeah.
Bro, fucking high five. Yeah, bro, we're in the same lane. He helped
Yeah.
develop. Listen, Marvel Cosmic is insane because of fucking Jim Starlin. No other reason. Yeah, Jack Kirby did his thing with trying to do some shit, but no. I mean, when Starlin stepped in, he changed the fucking game completely, yo. Completely.
See, I would love it if we could still have, like, if someone made a trilogy of Captain Marvel movies and the last movie was basically an adaptation of Jim Starlin's Death of Captain Marvel.
Oh my fucking the most heartbreaking book you probably ever read.
Yeah.
In the Marvel graphic novel format that it came out in. Beautiful fucking book.
And I think that it's they tried to undo that a couple of times, but fortunately it always failed. But I think the fact
several times, the whole Cancerverse, they tried to bring him back several times, or even incorporate or throw characters into the Cancerverse. Oh, look who's here. Oh, he didn't die. He's alive in the Cancerverse.
Yeah.
No, bro, he got cancer. He gone. Stop it. Like, you don't want to reintroduce him correctly. Leave him alone, bro. Let that one of those characters is dead. Leave it alone.
See, when you talk about, like, giving creators more freedom, imagine if we had more things like that, where, do you know what, a character has, we know he's, like, his best days are long gone.
Yep.
Give it to a creator that really cares about the character but wants to give him a good send-off.
Yes. Oh, agreed.
Yep.
Give us that finality, that wonderful story,
Yeah.
I mean, that the Captain Marvel kind of achieved that with his death, but when they, kind of, started, like you said, to try and bring him back, it tarnished it. It.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, let's go back for a second. Like, look at Green Lantern. What if? And you asked about sort of like what I would suggest. Like, okay, now at one point there was something like 3 or 4 Green Lantern titles coming out.
Yeah. The Cora, the Hal Jordan, the Kyle Rayner Jordan. Was it? I forgot what it was. Yeah, he had several at the time. Yeah.
So let's say, for instance, okay, we're going to cut that down. We're just going to have one Green Lantern title. It's going to be 48 pages every month. So it's 12. There's going to be 12 issues a year. Issues 1 to 4 is Hal Jordan as Green Lantern. Cool. Okay. And then that gets collected as a graphic novel. And while that's happening, the next 4 issues of Green Lantern is John Stewart.
Okay.
That gets collected. But the last 4 issues of the year is the Green Lantern Corps.
Oof. Yes.
And then the following year, we start all over again. We do Green Lantern.
Hal Stewart Corps. Hal Stewart Corps. Hal Stewart Corps. I mean,
And you can, and the thing is, like, so, and the Green Lantern Corps could literally, and 1 year, you could do a 4-part story with Hal Jordan that actually continues into John Stewart.
Not just that, absolutely.
But then is concluded in the Green Lantern Corps.
Absolutely.
But you don't do that every year. That's a one-off every, say, 5-10 years or something.
A nice plot, that everything starts coming together. I love that idea, but again, how feasible would it be for them to do it? I mean, do they want to do that? Because again, they want to get you on that per issue basis, bro.
Yeah, but here's what I would say to them. And this is how I would appeal to their greed, basically, is I would say, like, okay, because if you go to that ICV article and you see what I did,
yeah,
if you cut the amount of titles down. All the titles would be $5, but they are 48 pages. You do mini-series of any other character. So basically, you only do 12 titles, okay? 12 titles a month. That's it. But you do others that are mini-series, but the DC universe is 12 titles.
Yeah.
Everything that happens in the DC universe happens in those 12 titles. You can do mini-series that happen within the DC universe, but if you do it, the audience that reads the 12 titles doesn't actually have to read that, and it won't affect the DC universe.
Gotcha.
Anything that affects the DC universe in those 12 issues. So if you can if you're willing to pay out for 12 books a month, that gives you the entire DC universe, and you can be happy and contented, and nothing is going to happen outside of that will affect the DC universe. If it happens, if a death of a major character happens, it's going to be in those 12 books.
You see that, folks?
Everything else, but so you can still have mini-series about all the other characters, okay? You can do that, but you don't feel that it's like you're not missing anything, because if you're reading the universe, it's not referred to. You can refer to the 12 issues in the other titles, but you can't do it the other way around. So it gives, and those 12 issues you can then put back on the newsstand. So those are 12 you can pick up, and you've got the whole thing. So you feel, as a collector, this is it. I buy those 12 issues, I've got the DC universe. And you can do that at the Marvel universe as well, 12 issues. And I believe that if you see, one of the things I think has affected the sales of comics is the companies seeing demand and going for it, rather than just going, do you know what? We're glad there's a demand for it, but we're going to keep them happy. We're going to, by keeping the quality there, you want people, it's that thing of, just because you want more of something doesn't mean you should actually have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by doing that, what it does is it keeps people eager for the next one. If they love Spider-Man, don't give them another Spider-Man the following week. You want them looking forward. You want them anticipating the one. You can have him guest star in something else, but no, let them
salivate this shit.
Exactly. Keep them, and then they pour over it like, oh, and then they've read it like, oh, I want another one.
Like back in the day, absolutely.
But you want that. You want that, because otherwise you kill it. If you see, and again, there are people who will keep on buying 4 Spider-Man a month. But what that will do, and what that did do, was that affected the overall sales for Spider-Man per issue went down.
Yeah.
Because people just went, I'm jumping out now.
Absolutely.
Because you're killing my wallet. And I one Spider-Man title I would buy, but now you've
he gave up not because of the amount of titles, but rather like the storyline. What in the fuck?
Well, do you remember when Superman Action, it was, you basically had a Man of Steel, it was a weekly, it became a weekly comic, but it ran over 4 titles. So if you just bought Superman, you only ever got a quarter of a story, because you had to buy the other 3 to get the rest of the story. Which
is insane. Again, people pulling for money. It is capitalistic. But Dave, you know what I mean? We're running on the 2-hour mark. I don't want to kill everybody here with time.
No. This. I think we haven't answered everyone's question, but the real question for this. But I think it's one that we could have ideas. We can have thoughts about it.
And I want you guys to talk about it with us.
Yeah.
The comments, folks. Don't be shy, please.
But I think people have to go back to voting with their wallets, saying we want change, basically protest, we want this. And
I think you're seeing that a little bit, because if you're kind of seeing a lot of the newer stories, look, we have Thor kind of looking back OG. We're seeing a lot of original creators come back to the big 2 to do some stories based on their old content, kind of continuations of stories. So I think people have been craving for it, and I think that they're starting to notice it, and they're starting to give in a little.
Well, they're doing that because they think like, oh, well, we'll get some sales for that, like
but listen, if you give us what we want, though, you're gonna get the sales. Because listen, Dave, before we go, this is food for thought for the next one. How the fuck are Facsimiles produced by Marvel outselling new issues?
Yeah,
it goes to show the quality of old stories and how relevant they are for a new generation. And like, yo, if you go back to just telling good fucking stories and stop following fucking political narratives sometimes, or just make a good effing story, a good adventure, that's suitable to the character, I think we'll go very far again.
I think Taschen books showed that, like, what did they do? They made a ton of money by reprinting, but just bigger, all the early issues of Spider-Man, Avengers, Fantastic Four.
That's all they did. Reprint, bro. And why? Because that's what
they did it really not, but doing it well.
Yes, agree.
Doing it well.
A great representation, not killing the original feel of it. I mean, yes, the ink didn't smell the same because none of it's like the 60s ink. They probably had Coke in it. Who knows?
but to be fair, those books that Taschen do aren't for new readers. They're not going to bring new readers in. They're for us.
Yeah, no, you know what though? If we give this to our kids, I see a lot of kids going back to the old school nowadays. Not for nothing, Dave. Something we'll discuss next time. But on the realness, I'm starting to see a lot of kids kind of seeing where we're coming from. Finally, possibly seeing the light, and like, oh shit, you know what? These stories are pretty fucking amazing. I see why you guys may feel the way you do. I mean, no hate. It ain't about hate. It's just, again, we're looking for adventures. If we wanted to read the news, we buy a fucking newspaper, folks. You know what I mean?
Who reads newspapers anymore? It's all online.
Another thing, I remember myself back in the day, we reading the daily news in the post, in the train. That don't happen no more. Anyway, with that, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We're gonna come back to you in 2 weeks. We're gonna continue this discussion. There's still a lot more to talk about here. We will rambling.
Please, if anybody has any thoughts and comments, put it below, and then we'll bring that up on the next one.
For real, comment. We will love to know your thoughts again, especially if you're a comic book collectors, comic book readers for a long time. How do you feel about how things are being done nowadays? How do you like your stories nowadays? How do you like the marketing nowadays? How do you feel about the accessibility? I mean, is it even there? Are you still as passionate? Let us know. We're dying to know, man. We're here for you guys. We want to know because, hopefully through our words, we could help this become something better, Yep. So thank you, Dave. Thank you, mi gente, my fellow Crusaders. Hasta la próxima. You know what it is. This is the International Comics Crusaders. Much love. Wepa!
Thank you. We hope you've enjoyed this Comic Crusaders production. For real-time news on all things pop culture, please feel free to follow us on social media. For articles, original content, merchandise, and more, please go to www.comiccrusaders.com. Also follow along with all of the websites of the Comic Crusaders family.